Onondaga, Georgia, and I will be doing my art grant project on a documentary on the Navy during World War II. It will be about what they did, who was in it, all about sort of what they did throughout the war and their efforts, because it is often untalked about, and the Army did more than them, so they helped win the war more, when the Navy did a lot more that a lot of people don't know about. And you might be wondering, how is it art? How can a documentary be art? And the way it is through the cinematography and the soundtrack. You might not even realize it when you're watching a movie, but the soundtrack has to be carefully picked out, each song, each note, for hours by one person to convey whatever emotion you're trying to convey. And the other part is cinematography. And one of the most popular uses of cinematography is symmetry. In this image from Stanley Kubrick's 2001, it is pretty easy to see how it's symmetrical. But unless you're paying attention to it, you might not even notice it. Everything on one end can balance out the other. And every frame of every film, just about, if it's a skilled director, it is carefully thought out and planned. Another thing where it's a little less noticeable is from Wes Anderson's Grand Budapest Hotel. If you're just watching it, you might not even notice it. But if you look a little closer, you can see that it's very symmetrical. The people on the left balance out the people on the right. The lamps up there are right over there too. The center is very defined, and there's an even amount of lights on each side. And the reason that this project is important to me is because my granddad, John Robert Enright, was in the Navy throughout World War II aboard the USS Stafford. And another reason is because my great uncle was in the Army throughout the war. And the purpose of the film is, as I said, to show the efforts throughout the war and to educate a generation that may have forgotten what it took to have the freedom we have today. It will also try to reach as many people as possible to educate as many of them as possible. It will be distributed among online streaming services, and it will at some point have a website, movie theaters, and museums. The time frame for development will be 6 months, and the first 2 months will be spent script writing, storyboarding, finding veterans, and travel plans. The reason we have a script is because we'll be doing interviews with veterans who are in the war and not necessarily only in the Navy, but those who are involved with it in some way. Storyboarding, which if you don't know, that's what you do to plan out your shots when you're making a movie. You would write down a little frame and you put everything where you want it and then go and recreate that in real life. Of course, another one will be having to find the veterans, and the next will be planning the travel to get to each veteran, preferably in this nation, and to plan to get to them. And the last 4 months will be filming, which will be B-roll footage, which is just when you're watching a documentary, footage in between the important parts, and then also filming the interviews. Another will be editing, and so that will be editing the film. And another will be licensing, which is licensing all the music we need, all the film, and all the stock footage we use. The time frame for display will be theater and museum time, 2 weeks of touring from theaters to show it with the question and answer segment after. 2 weeks will be spent in public showings. To be transparent, it's because that's what you need 2 weeks of public showing to be able to get an Academy Award. And it will also be shown in museums with short question and answer segments after. It will also be on websites where it will be available forever. I will follow up on the ticket sales from the theaters and museums, as well as the online viewing online. The budget, the camera will be $600, the microphone $30, the licensing $400, the soundtrack $400, and the travel fees $200, and the rest will be spent with marketing and everything else that we might need, like gas, that we might not think about ahead of time. Thank you for your time. Who am I with? Myself. And anyone who I might need to hire outside for help with script writing and storyboarding and stuff like that.
I was just wondering if you were like part of the company or.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Will there be any other third-party websites that we'll be able to see the documentary on, or will it just be the home website?
It will be the home website as well as other online sites I haven't found yet or been able to see how you would get the movie on there. Amazon and Netflix would be nice because that's where
Yeah.
most of them are, but that's quite expensive and it's pretty hard to get on. Any other questions?
Where will the filming be taking place, the in-between part?
Great Lakes, Illinois is one place, which is where I think the Naval Academy is and where a lot of the Navy is stationed. And anywhere, maybe Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, anywhere where major events happen, Lake Gulf, Midway, just all places.
How many veterans do you plan on interviewing?
However many are alive, because there's not many. At least one of them, my granddad, and another, whoever I can find. Thank you.
Nice.